Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, self-driving taxi service has been suspended in San Francisco. The reason why is rather surprising. Apple backs yet another right to repair bill, which raises the eyebrows of everyone. Qualcomm is getting more and more people to sign on for their Apple Silicon grade SoC, and a new tool is out there to now poison the AI art well. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or assuming this is Eagle Eyes on Tech guy. I'm Eagle Falcon. Today, honestly, there isn't a whole lot to talk about. But what there is to talk about is really interesting. The push to try and force PCs out of x86 and into ARM is growing stronger and stronger, and I suspect that's going to be our biggest topic of the day. But you know how this thing goes. I script literally nothing. No joke, the only thing I ever write down ahead of time, unless it's like a huge story with a lot of details I need to have right, I'll jot those notes down. I'll have that scripted out. But everything else are those notes like go over on the tease for the entire episode at the very beginning. That's it. So I don't know how this is going to go. I will say this. I am surprised how few people are concerned with the fact that Okta, however the heck this company is actually pronounced. OKTA. They've had a big hack. Their systems were compromised, but it appears at this time to have affected nothing, which is really surprising because Okta, I'm just going to pronounce them that way until someone corrects me, that they're kind of the cloud provider for many different major services, including Cloudflare and OnePass. There's actually a few others I remember being said that they manage, but in either case, Okta was unaware of the actual hack and the fact that their systems were compromised until Cloudflare actually needed to file a report. Oh, I'm sorry, it was OnePass that actually reported first that there was something wrong with the support system. But it appears that no other system at this time has been affected, or at least no data was stolen. Of course, we got something like this. There's still a whole lot to digest. This should be something that's major news, but the fact that these sort of breaches that seem to happen are just so, what's the right word for it? They're so commonplace that we just don't really bat an eye until we have confirmation that data is actually stolen. I also just want to say the social media bar on the side of TechCrunch's website looks really naked without the Twitter bird. No, it's going to be very hard for me to let go of the fact that Twitter rebranding to X might still, in fact, be like one of the worst business decisions in all of business. You know it's a terrible business decision when the public refuses to acknowledge your decision. I'm just saying. No one out there is calling it X. Or if they do, they followed up with, or Twitter or whatever they call themselves nowadays. Nobody knows. Nobody even cares either. Meanwhile, while everyone is looking at Okta and trying to figure out what it means, we do look at California and are able to tell exactly what it means. The robo-taxi service Cruise is officially shut down within San Francisco. For those who don't know what Cruise is, they are a fleet of fully autonomous taxis that operate, first off, using the worst cars in existence. They use, like, what cars are these? Are they custom? Are these just like modded Santa Fe's? Like, what are these? It looks like a rolling sardine. It looks like a shoe. This looks like something I would just put on my foot. But in any case, size of the cars aside, the self-driving taxi service was so disliked in California that people in the past, if you remember, were protesting the company by putting traffic cones on the sensors, and that was enough to fully immobilize the taxis. That's all it took. A cone. But what finally prompted Cruise to no longer function within the city of San Francisco was, unfortunately, a car accident. And here's what I'll say about it. The way the accident went down, it really wasn't Cruise's fault. Here's what happened. A vehicle that was driven by a non-self-driving vehicle hit a woman, knocked her into a Cruise vehicle, got caught under the Cruise vehicle. The Cruise vehicle detected an accident occurred and then pulled to the side, dragging the woman along as it tried to get out to safety. Keep in mind, this requirement of if a self-driving car is detected in an accident and has to pull over to the side of the road is actually required by law within San Francisco. Cruise is being suspended because of a different negligent driver. I'm not a fan of these self-driving taxis in the first place. I personally prefer to drive myself. And quite frankly, I trust myself more than I trust a machine. Eventually, I know that my skills as a driver will be obsolete. And eventually, self-driving cars will just rule the streets. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to even own a self-driving car, because at the rate things are going, you are going to own nothing and be happy about it. That just seems to be the trend of owning electronic devices. You just won't. But I have a very hard time cheering this decision of halting Cruise's advancement, because they literally did nothing wrong. This wasn't their fault at all. The only reason they made it worse was because the vehicle drove off to the side, because Cruise was required by law to make their vehicles drive off to the side if it detects an accident. So for following the law, they are treated as though they disobeyed the law. Slow freaking clap. Amazing. Simply amazing. So, where does it go from here? What is the future of self-driving cars at this point? Honestly, it's going to stay about the same. We don't know how the advancements are going to go. We don't know what their future is from here on out. The advancements, for the most part, seem to have kind of declined, considering that the company that was at the forefront of self-driving was Tesla, but Tesla seems to have really technologically just completely stalled out. And quite frankly, the entire like world of Tesla is just very quickly unraveling. So, what do we do? Let's have to wait and see. We know many other companies are going to be working on self-driving. It seems to have kind of been brought on hold until technology advances. We'll have to see who comes out with the first big break. I still think for the most part, the first big break is going to be just in something in freight. I don't know exactly what though. But while California continues to make bad decisions, we should go back and reflect on another bad decision. New information has come out as to why Unity decided that dropping a grenade at their foot and watching it explode was a great idea. For those who don't understand what I'm referring to, Unity, not all that long ago, decided that, you know, maybe, just maybe, we should go ahead and have developers pay per install as a fee structure. And that basically has ruined the company and has forced Unity CEO John Riccitiello to resign aggressively, immediately, and then never be seen again by Unity because someone's head had to roll. That's how bad the decision was. And they've mostly rolled it back. Now, this absolutely toxic, abysmal, worthless, infuriating, stupid, trust-destroying structure now only applies to the next version of Unity and beyond, which basically means that Unity is going to be dead for any future development. Current development is currently, technically, fine. But here's the thing. Do you trust it's going to continue to remain fine? Well, that's the problem a lot of people have right now. They rolled it back and then fired John Riccitiello. They need to roll it back 100%, completely and utterly. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's going to be the only way to go forward. But that's how I'll talk about them. Information has come out saying that exactly what some people were saying is possibly the reason for this push is exactly the reason. The reason was, in fact, a push to use Iron Source, which is the ad system that Unity initially acquired. They were looking to try and urge mobile developers to utilize Iron Source. And in fact, there was a carve out for mobile games that used Iron Source as an ad engine. Now look. All right. I am not a game developer. All right. Let's just get that out of the way. All right. Shocker. to people out there. I don't develop games. I don't ever have plans to truly develop games. I have touched our Ragnarok Online private server files for quite a long time during high school and college. I've managed RO private servers before. I've gone ahead and I've dabbled into RPG Maker and actually did in fact have an entire RPG made as a meme based on someone else's RPG that was made as a meme. But I am not going to, under any circumstances, try to pass myself off as a game developer. But if I was a game developer, I would be so far away from Unity that it's not even funny. I would never, ever want to touch Unity in its current state until this fee structure is completely removed. I mean, John Riccitello being gone, huge step in the right direction. Absolutely. But here's the thing. The rollback happened while he was still there. And I want a surefire sign that anything that has his fingerprint on is gone. Because here's the thing. All right. He was there when the rollback happened. This whole pay per install thing is still, in fact, going to happen on all future versions of Unity. So we already know we're going to be seeing it. It's going to be happening, whether we like it or not. And considering the fact they literally just tried to go ahead and rush this out and have it affect all games previously developed on older versions, I'm sorry, the trust isn't there. The real question is, though, how does Unity repair itself? They need to get rid of the fee installation program entirely. Current projects, future projects, gone. 100%. Gone entirely. Go ahead, blame it on Riccitello. Let him be your scapegoat. Whatever you got to do to make yourself feel better. But that thing needs to go, and it needs to go now. But now, here's the part that's even more concerning. All right. Let's pretend for a minute, all right, that they do exactly that. There's still going to be a lot of developers out there that are still not going to trust Unity. And I don't know what it would take for Unity to convince them to come back. I don't think there is a way to convince those people to come back to Unity. I think that ship has sailed and there's no saving it, period. And I think by the time they figure out a way to earn back that trust, people are going to be so ingrained in a better system that you then start to have the effect of, well, we've already switched over to Unreal, or we've already switched over to Godot. So why would we switch back? I don't think Unity, I think we have truly, and I do mean this truly, seen the peak of Unity. I don't think Unity is ever in its entire life gonna ever be as big as it was the day before they dropped this pay per install program. I truly believe they will never recover. And here's the thing, that's the best case scenario. There is still a worst case scenario. They simply cease to exist. With no trust, with no one willing to touch them new, all you're going to do is keep your old users. You may, in fact, get a few here and there that are willing to go ahead and play ball and make some really sketchy mobile app games and whatnot on Unity. Use whatever the heck they want and maybe keep the company chugging for a little bit longer. But with the trust absolutely shattered. And for what? The help Iron Source that you bought to go ahead and push people towards using the ads of Iron Source? And that decision was one that Richie Tullo was proud of. What's going to be amazing, between the ruined reputation of EA's microtransactions under John Riccitiello's tenure, and then leaving Unity a shattered, ununified, frickin' husk of a company that it once was, John Riccitiello is going to go down in history as a CEO that has done nothing but absolutely destroy customer relationships. That's going to be his entire legacy. Quite frankly, though, it's impressive, especially even looking back after having the confirmation that, yes, it was in fact all for the money. Now, instead, let's take a look at a decision that is equally as stupid, but far more meaningless. I want to talk about the new PS5 Slim. All right. For those of you who don't know, there is a PS5 Slim. Okay. It is thinner than the PS5, but not by much. And actually is somehow, unlike previous PlayStation Slims, more expensive than the original. Because, man, economics are great. Yeah, I'm not happy about it either. But there is one good thing the PS5 Slim does, all right? If you get a digital-only version of the PS5 Slim, you can, in fact, get an $80 module that'll upgrade the PS5 Slim with an internal Blu-ray drive. There's just one problem. You see, despite the fact that the entire electronics industry has had Bluetooth handshaking for the longest time, in Sony's own personal little world, they felt the smart person thing to do was to make it that in order for the Blu-ray drive to be accepted, you would have to connect to the internet for the Blu-ray drive to work with the PS5 you plugged in. I want that to sink in for a minute, okay? I can go ahead, grab a USB, or let's even use an even more obscure connection. I'm going to go ahead, let's say I grab an eSATA Blu-ray drive. All right, then attach it to my PC. Heck, let's even go apples to apples. Let's say I go ahead and install an internal SATA drive. All right. There's no handshaking required. There's no contacting an online server at all. Why is Sony doing this? I don't know. I assume to just make sure that, oh, you're not using a bootleg or something. And it's just like, it's a proprietary connector anyway, at least as far as we know. We're only going by pictures we've seen on the internet. But what this means, all right, what this means is, let's pretend we are now in the PS7. It is now 10 years in the future. The PS5 is dead and buried. And online games for the PS5 have gone away, and the only things that are left are the games you can use via disc, and you have a digital only one. All right, you go ahead and get the disc drive. Oh, but the online services were shut down. Now you can't go ahead and hook up your Blu-ray drive to your PS5 at all because the server doesn't exist anymore. Meaning that if I wanted to go ahead and I didn't have my PS5, but then 10 years down the road I did get one, and I wanted to play Final Fantasy 16, for instance, I'm just out of luck. It would mean that every single PS5 Slim, or it would actually just mean that every PS5 is just e-waste. Every single PS5 that doesn't have the drive by the time the online service ends is just e-waste, and there's no way to solve it, no way to authenticate it, no way to fix this sort of thing until someone makes a hack tool to go ahead and get around the authentication service. And all it does is just end up being one giant middle finger from Sony to all of us, the user base, to every single consumer out there that just wants to go ahead and play some old school games. And yeah, I'm going to use the term old school for the PS5 because trying to go ahead and say the PS5 will be considered retro in 10 years is, I don't like it. I don't like it. Someone in chat says they learned it from Apple. Can they unlearn it? Please? Because it's such a bad move. No one should copy Apple for things. But at the same time, since you mentioned Apple, why don't we talk about the right to repair bill that Apple is actually behind? Yeah, so first off, Apple was put their full support behind a right to repair bill in California. Turned out the reason they did it is because the right to repair bill still allowed for digital serialization, meaning that if I went ahead, had a screwdriver, a spudger, or whatever, and decided to try and go in and replace fans, it would just work. Or actually, in the case of yesterday, actually replacing a battery in a laptop, it would just work. No problem. Apple, on the other hand, serializes it, so only a certified Apple technician can actually do the swap. If, say, some guy with, you know, a decade of experience and the tools to do it, try to go ahead and do it, they would just be SOL, and the battery be considered fraudulent and refuse to charge. Thanks, Apple. Yeah, the California bill allowed for that sort of stuff to still happen, which is one of the things the right to repair movement is trying to fight against heavily. So the fact that Apple is backing up the federal right to repair bill, what does that tell me? It tells me that the federal right to repair bill is going to be a steaming pile of hot garbage that they're going to go ahead and try to say is a good move, a huge plus for the average consumer, and that you should continue to vote for the present administration. No. I want to see this bill. I want to see what this bill actually includes, and I want to see why Apple supports it. Because as we learned already from California, when Apple supports a right to repair bill, it is not a good right to repair bill at all. So we'll have to wait and see if they're going to have the stones to actually show the bill before it goes to a vote. Because I'm willing to bet, considering that Apple is actually in support of this bill, that it's not a good bill at all. Let that be a lesson. If you actually like to repair your own devices, if you support devices being repaired and life being extended on devices, if Apple's behind the legislation, hate it. That should be your default answer. Because odds are 9 out of 10, you will be correct. It's going to be going against your exact intentions. But in the end, all we can do is wait and see. Actually, kind of funny. I'm technically out of the laptop repairing business, but I've had 2 repairs this week. One was for our fan replacement, only to discover that the fan that was in there was fine. The reason the device said it had a fan error was because HP only installed 1 fan, but that wasn't her problem. Her problem was that she had so much stuff on it, it was going to swap immediately and needed more RAM. Well, the RAM was soldered onto the motherboard. It was literally unrepairable. Laptop's e-waste. The other was a battery replacement. Went smooth as butter. Even though for a brief moment I thought that the shipper sent me the wrong battery. You know, if it's a MacBook, I can't do anything. All because of wonderful crud like that. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to talk about NVIDIA and their plans for future GPUs, as well as Qualcomm and its push to take over the laptop and desktop space. We will be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. You know what rumors are getting really strong and are really hard to ignore? We've heard rumors of a RTX 4080 Ti making the rounds, but we have heard something far more obnoxious making the rounds. And if it's true, I'm going to hate this generation of GPU far more than I did any other generation. We're hearing rumors that we're not going to see an RTX 4080 Ti coming out soon. The rumors are saying there's going to be a RTX 4080 Super. And these rumors are getting very, very strong. And I hope they end up being about as credible as the Switch Pro rumors. Because if it means that NVIDIA is willing to go ahead and mix RTX Supers in the 40 series in addition to TIs, that means there is potentially another 5 more overpriced GPUs in this entire generation of what essentially is a ripoff up and down the product stack with no affordable option. Keep in mind, there is still not an RTX 4050 at all. There is still not a 40 series card that is cheaper than $300. If you actually intend to make a budget gaming rig, you have to either A, go Intel, or B, go used. There is no new NVIDIA option for a budget PC. It is simply not possible because NVIDIA is so freaking insistent on making sure their products are unaffordable to the plebs, to the masses, to the average person. Using integrated GPUs is not an option, chat. No, bad. Look, integrated GPUs are great in certain situations. If I'll tell you what, if you're just making a basic office computer or a basic PC for basic usage, by all means, go integrated Intel, go integrated AMD GPU, go for it. Heck, if you're just doing esports and stuff, most likely the integrated GPU on the AMD APUs will be fine. But if you're looking to try and keep up with, say, like a PS5, you need a discrete GPU. If you're looking to play modern games, you need a discrete GPU. And the fact that NVIDIA they don't care. They literally just don't care about your ability to afford it. And someone in chat says, or go Apple with their console graphics. It's funny because Apple with the what you call it? Apple with the what's the latest iPhone? Is it 15? Pretty sure it's 15. With the iPhone 15 Pro, they said that they had console level graphics on the phone. There is still no AAA titles on the phone. They had tons of various things for demos, but you still can't get any of the games that were demoed actually on the phone. Yikes. Though, of course, maybe it won't even matter. Maybe instead, Qualcomm will just go ahead and make the Snapdragon X Elite so powerful that it actually is just on par with the Apple Silicon M1 chips in just their GPU performance and just make discrete GPUs obsolete. We talked about this briefly last time, but the reports and the talks of this thing coming to PCs and ending up becoming an actual legitimate alternative for AMD or Intel CPUs is getting kind of concerning. It's actually quite possible if all their boasting turns out to be true. Because granted, outside of all of these sort of demos and insider testing and all that, we know almost nothing other than people are really hyped for this. This could be one massive flop and be roughly as powerful as my Samsung phone here, which seems to lock up more often than not. Although I will say, Um, after having to work on my dad's phone and get his volume working again, holy cow. I don't know what his phone runs on, but it is atrocious. That processor is just gross. I could count to 3 by the time a touch input was registered. It was bad. But I digress. These sort of talks of this Snapdragon X Elite legitimately being a contender in the laptop space is growing stronger. Well, how strong could it be, right? I mean, everyone can go ahead and talk a big game, but is anyone willing to go ahead and put their money where their mouth is? Well, actually, yes. More people are signing up to go ahead and create machines powered by the Snapdragon X Elite. Previously, the only ones that were willing to give Snapdragon a shot, and it was a terrible shot, I might add, was Lenovo, who will basically bite at anything if it puts them in the headlines, because Lenovo basically, all right, you want to know what Lenovo is in the computer world? Lenovo does one thing really well. They make ThinkPads, all right? And the ThinkPads are really solid machines. But here's the thing. If I show you a ThinkPad, it looks boring. You've all seen a ThinkPad, right? Their look has barely changed since the dawn of computing. So they look for any reason to stand out. They'll go ahead and jump at anything to do, all right? They will do anything for attention. They are basically the guy shouting from the audience going, "Notice me, senpai!" in the computer world. HP is very much in a very similar boat, except they make very beautiful looking machines, but then also put a padlock on your printer and then hold it for ransom. How many people think that's a metaphor or like hyperbole or just like there's no way they actually do that? They actually do that. They actually have printers that you need to go ahead and pay a subscription, and if you don't, they remotely lock your printer. It's awful. If you have one of these printers, destroy it. You are being blackmailed to use your printer. Stop it. Stop it. And then Microsoft went ahead and used the Snapdragon processors in one line of Surface, and it went very, very poorly. That's just all there is to it. So, who else is signing on board? Well, that's the thing. People who are signing up now are Acer, who basically produce plastic garbage, Asus, who either produces the most impressive laptop you've ever seen or the most boring laptop you've ever seen, depending on which one you get. Asus is a real crapshoot when it comes to computers. It's kind of weird. Like, the ZenBooks are really good, but then you get something else with their name and it's like really bad. But then they have the ROG systems, which are either the most powerful gaming laptop you've ever seen or thermal thaw themselves into oblivion. Asus is bizarre in the way they work. It's like gambling. But moving on. Dell also plan on getting into the Snapdragon X. Dell's another one that... How many of you like Dells? Because I'm willing to bet a lot of you are going to say you hate Dells. Dell's a funny little computer company, right? Because they do some very sketchy things sometimes. But when you get to the right department, if you're going through the Latitude line of Dells, the Precision line of Dells, or if you're a psychopath like me going through the Power Edge line of Dells, you find the most beautiful, amazing, well-built, over-engineered, glorious computers with a ton of... well, that's a ton of proprietary stuff in there because, of course, it does, which is a little disappointing. But if you stay in the ecosystem, my God, will they tell you each and everything you ever want to know about repairing that machine and servicing that machine. I swear on the lid to my Power Edge servers, on the actual lid is an entire schematic of everything on that bloody motherboard, how to access it, and what the wattages are on the various PCI Express slots. With QR codes on where to order said missing parts. It is beautiful. You go into their Inspiron line, you feel like you've been beaten. Dell Inspirons are terrible. The most abysmal, awful, freaking nothing freaking laptops out there. And then Alienware. I still don't know how to judge Alienware. Because on one hand, they had the Alienware Aurora, a desktop for a while that was so freaking lacking in airflow that it basically was a hot box within itself. But then they also had the Alienware Area 51M, a chonky laptop that was fully accessible. You could replace any component in there and had the potential of being a huge move forward in the world of repairability and power. It had a desktop processor in it. It introduced a new standard for GPUs. Too bad it had one generation and then they dumped it. Then the stuff they replaced it with, of course, memory soldered onto the board. I don't know about their new stuff, but it's just like, man, depending on who you go to in Dell, you find savants in sustainable PC engineering, and then you just have actual scum. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, people who are adopting Snapdragon X Elite. Acer, Asus, Dell, Samsung, and Xiaomi. Also, the sub-brand Honor from Huawei is joining the roster, but we will never see them here in the US because, of course, Huawei is basically banned from existing in North America. No surprise there. But you get my point, right? I mean, Samsung's just going to do what Samsung wants to do. Xiaomi and Honor are going to do what they want to do. The fact that Dell and Asus are willing to step on board this when they make some of the most over-engineered computers out there is impressive. It's very interesting. And we'll have to see what these end up being. Someone in chat wants to know what Huawei did. Huawei makes has made a lot of spyware in the past on the hardware level, introduced it into a lot of their phones, and then sent that information back to the Chinese government. And while it was never technically proven, there was enough evidence that leaned that way that action was taken based on it. Now, the thing is that to bring ARM to the PC space, you need Microsoft to support it. So Windows for ARM needs to take huge steps forward. And it's not helping at all the fact that the initial setup for Windows 11 is making it so that by default your SSDs are being hit hard. And these high-powered NVMe SSDs are being ground to a screeching halt, all because of the default BitLocker setting on Windows 11. You know, back in the day, when I was reformatting new PCs, I would have a program that would install a basic suite of freeware to bring essential services to like a Windows 7 machine or a Windows XP machine, like a basic antivirus that was free forever, a basic media player that would play everything, which was oddly enough VLC media player, 7-zip, CD burning tools, all those sort of things, right? I'd have a script that would just go ahead and just go boop, 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 install it all. I feel like if I got back into the PC refurbishing business, I would need a script that would go ahead and set Windows 11 to proper settings so that it was bloody useful again. Because first off, the whole thing, has you utilize the cloud first, which is awful. I hate it. That needs to die in a fire. Stop it. Stop forcing me to use frickin' OneDrive. But then also to go ahead and just say, don't worry, we have encryption built in by default, but it hammers your SSD so hard that it brings it down to hardware speeds. Why? It's just enough to make you shake your head and just make you wish that you were doing anything else other than having to deal with the default Windows settings. But hey, Microsoft, you want to go ahead and try to make it so that you can take over the ARM space? You got some work to do. We're going to take our next break a bit early because coming up, I want to talk about robots. Yes, robots. Whose robots? Amazon's robots. This is interesting. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Amazon has been having some problems with employment. I think that comes as a surprise to literally no one. Anyone who has actually paid any attention to Amazon and heard from any Amazon employees can confirm, in fact, that working for Amazon is terrible. And in fact, they just basically treat their workers like robots. If you need proof of this, I give you the rumor that it took me, God, a month to finally find enough evidence to support it because it just sounded so fake. The fact that drivers had to pee in bottles. Well, don't worry, because Amazon has heard the complaints of the average worker and have found a solution. How many of you can see where this is going? What possible solution could Amazon have to solve their worker problem? They keep mistreating their workers. How do they treat them better? Could it be more breaks? Could it be more leeway in their productivity? No, silly. Actually replace them with robots. Obviously, right? Yeah, Amazon is introducing new bipedal robots to go ahead and work in their distribution centers. You can't make this up. You just can't make this up. In fact, it is Agility Digit that is the developer of these bipedal robots, and is moving the testing of these robots to nationwide fulfillment centers, and their primary focus is going to be moving various buckets of stuff around. The packaging at this time is still going to be done by humans, so thus you can still expect your Amazon package experience to go along the lines of receiving a box the size of a refrigerator to hold 7 Hot Pockets. You know I'm not kidding either. You know it's about that bad. Order a mouse from Amazon. Get a box the size of a car engine. The rest of it just shoved with so much bagged air, it's not even funny. So that's the move of Amazon. Just straight up robots. Just straight up. But while Amazon is testing interior robots, Ford is testing drones for drone delivery. Yes, Ford is looking to try and beat Amazon to the punch of unmanned drone delivery of small packages. I don't even know what to say to this. I don't think I could feel any more blindsided if I tried. How else do you respond to this? Yes. Thank you, Ford, for delivering my new F-150 via 17 drones. I just feel like I live in Crazy Town. We got Amazon, rather than actually treating humans with any sort of self-respect, just replace them with robots. We have Ford testing an idea that even Amazon seems to have scrapped. It's just, it's absolutely insane. Someone in chat asked, "How was the rent in Crazy Town?" Pretty reasonable, actually. It's about 1,300 for a 2-bedroom in Crazy Town. It's not horrendous. Might need to get a roommate, but it is 2 bedrooms, so I mean it's acceptable. We just got better water here in Crazy Town. There are bugs everywhere though. There are these little black and red bugs that just coat the entire building in fall. So that's helping the effect of going completely crazy in Crazy Town. But on the bright side, we don't see the Amazon delivery vehicles because they go to a different building, two buildings down. So you have to carry your refrigerator-sized box that holds a keyboard in it to your apartment back in Crazy Town. Anyway, we'll see how this ends up going. I have a feeling that for Ford, this is going to end up just being something that's never spoken about again. Meanwhile, Reddit has smoked a little too much of crazy grass in Crazy Town because they believe that, in fact, the key to their survival is blocking all search. Yes, they believe they should cut off all access to Google so that Google can no longer skim Reddit for subreddit threads and that they can survive without this. So here's the problem, okay? Google, as you're well aware, scans the internet and collects data and then delivers it in search results. Okay. The thing is that in order to go ahead and skim this data, they take a little piece of the information and post it directly on Google's website. So there's a chance that if you see something that's useful on Reddit, you don't actually click through to view the Reddit page, and thus Reddit gets nothing for being searched up. Let me tell you this, all right? I would say roughly 60% of all traffic on Reddit is from people having to Google some obscure thing and finding a subreddit post about it. The remaining 40% are the crazed lunatics that Reddit tried to insult earlier by denying API access to. Yeah, the whole skimming of data and having little bits of the information of the page showing on Google's website and potentially making it so someone doesn't click through is a problem. It is a very small problem. You know what's a bigger problem? Cutting off the majority of the people trying to find you. Why? Why does the administration of Reddit insist that corporate suicide is a great idea? This is beyond stupid. There's a lot of what Reddit does that's incredibly stupid. This goes well beyond that. But, you know, Reddit, you do you. I'm gonna laugh at you and don't do what you plan on doing, because it's actually going to be harmful to the internet. And quite frankly, when I'm in the middle of looking at a battery, for example, that is going into a laptop and they said it's compatible, but I noticed the batteries are two radically different sizes, and I need to look up on what the deal is and if I got ripped off, I had to use a Reddit page, and I got to that Reddit page through Google. What if I didn't have access to that? Yeah. This is not a smart decision. Don't try to be smarter. Now, we spoke about this before, but now we actually have confirmation on this. We talked about how Google pays Apple a large sum of money to be the default search engine on the iPhone. We, in fact, now have confirmation of how much it is. I want you to guess it. How much do you think they pay? 100 million? 200 million? 500 million? $1 billion? Try $18 billion. That is the amount per year that Google pays to Apple to stay the default search engine on the iPhone. Wow. This came out during a court case between the EU and Google for antitrust practices, and I'll tell you what, yeah, this isn't a very good look to try and say that, oh, no, we don't do anything out of the ordinary. We don't go ahead and do anything crazy. We don't go ahead and pay tons of money to be a default option or anything like that and elbow out everyone else. No, they do. They pay a lot. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the EU does about it. I'm willing to bet not much, because that's usually how these sort of things go. Meanwhile, though, Apple is releasing iOS 17.1 and iPadOS 17.1. And this now includes such features that were promised a while ago, including AirDrop over the internet, as well as some major bug fixes. So if you in fact do have an Apple device, go ahead and update it now, because not gonna lie, that whole just quickly send people files, that's kind of huge, especially since you iPhone people, despite the fact you now have a USB-C port. For those of you who don't understand what a USB-C port is, that's this port right here on the bottom of this phone that you can't see because it's an audio-only podcast, that the rest of society has used forever, that lets us use whatever frickin' device we ever want ever, that only just now can you use at USB 2.0 speeds, unless you went ahead and got a titanium phone, in which case now you have a phone that's really fragile. It's great, isn't it? But I digress. The major bugs as well as security fixes are big. So this is kind of one of those patches that you normally do update your OS on iOS pretty frequently and pretty much do it without a second thought. You definitely need to do it on this one. But that AirDrop over the internet sort of thing, just move files over with the power of the cloud. Nice thing also with AirDrop, it's a peer-to-peer connection, which means even if Apple vanishes, it would theoretically still work without Apple servers. Going back to that whole Sony thing, huge plus. I thought I saw something. I think that's just a symptom of being part of Crazy Town. But we need to talk about the bad part of the future, and that's with AI art. AI art is getting better, and it's getting scary good. And unfortunately, it's being used for a lot of bad, in addition to interesting things. And granted, we talked a little bit about the kind of prankster bad, but there's some actual bad stuff it's being used for, such as actually trying to fool people into giving up money, trying to scam people. However, a new tool called Nightshade has been developed, and Nightshade will actively destroy any AI art that tries to go ahead and use actual art for its systems. The way Nightshade works is that you put it into actual art. All right. The actual art looks perfectly fine, but it mislabels everything about the art piece. So let's say I am an extremely talented artist. I'm not, but let's pretend I am for a minute. I draw a beautiful picture of a cat. It's a kitty cat, and it dances and it dances. I have this cat, right? I install Nightshade on it. When The AI comes around, steals my picture of a cat. Nightshade tells it, oh, this is a picture of an apple. So as it tries to go ahead and use my perfectly drawn picture of a kitty cat, it will go ahead and instead think that that cat is an apple. So it might draw pieces of a cat on top of an apple. That's what one picture with Nightshade will do. What if you do it on an entire album? Very quickly, what ends up happening is that the entire database of pictures gets mixed and matched in the wrong places because all of its keywords are now shot. And in the end, you have an end result that looks more like an unrecognizable eldritch horror than it is a kitty cat playing patty cake with Mickey Mouse. It's a great tool, and I highly recommend that it's put into place ASA GDP and hinder AI art as much as possible. But let's be honest here for a minute. What we have going on here, not to dive back into the kitty cat analogy, but we have a game of cat and mouse going on. It's a matter of time until new AI comes out and finds a way around the data poisoning that Nightshade brings up. And then a new version of Nightshade will come and get around that countermeasure, and it'll be a back and forth game for a very long time. Nightshade is in no way, shape, or form the end all be all to absolutely destroying AI art. It's not. But it is another tool that can be used to fight against it. But what we really need is a tool to fight against Nintendo with, because, my God, God help you if you try to go ahead and run any kind of community tournament using Nintendo games. Because the rules they force you to use, whoo, it's something else. So Nintendo has now come out with new community guidelines for community tournaments that now make it so that basically, if you run any sort of one of these events to try to generate any kind of, well, try to self-sustain the event at all, try to make up your costs or anything, you're basically going to be shut down. Effectively, the way it's worded, all right, makes it so that the event cannot make more money than it costs to organize it. And I want to stress, than it costs to organize it, not to run it. So any costs to run it, or any costs for the prize pool, cannot be made by the event according to Nintendo's guidelines for these community competitive events. Why? Just why? Let me tell you something. All right. You want to know why Square Enix went ahead and made a blatant, somewhat cringy clone of Splatoon? It's because Nintendo can't manage an esport to save their life, and there's a huge fan base that likes that style of gameplay, and Square believes they can do Splatoon as an esport better than Nintendo, and I 100% believe they can, even though Square shows no promise of being able to do that ever. And it's because of stuff like this. Tons of people want to go ahead and run events for Splatoon. Tons of people want to run events for Smash. And by tons, I mean tons of people want to run events for Smash. Hell, people would want to run events for freaking Mario Party if they could. The reason you have a game like Foam Stars exist is because Nintendo, in the space of actually getting in touch with the community, is weak. Wait, did I mention Pokemon in my list of Nintendo games that people would love to run tons of events for? God, Pokemon, of course, obviously. When you go ahead and put in such restrictions to make it so that basically these events have to run at a loss. Oh yeah, and by the way, you can't have a sponsor because, my God help you if Nintendo taint their name with any sponsor, whether it be Raid Shadow Legends or McDonald's, something, I don't know. Who's the other big sponsor of things nowadays? Raid's kind of fallen off the map after everyone and their mother has now heard about them. Even my mother has heard about Raid Shadow Legends. That's how I know they have reached market saturation. Oh, Pepsi, a Coke. Good point, chat. Good point, chat. It's just stupid. But of course, Nintendo, by all means, you know far better. And I'm just some schmuck that barely breaks 10 viewers from time to time. So you do you, while I go ahead and wonder why. Why do fans of competitive Nintendo games put up with this level of abuse? I also wonder why Counter-Strike players put up with the abuse they're getting. Counter-Strike 2 has had, since its launch, an interesting amount of problems. There's, of course, your growing pains, your early bugs, all that jazz, etc., etc. Everyone knows about them. What's interesting, though, is that first off, Counter-Strike 2 was banning people for using AMD GPUs. Whoops. That's been fixed now. But they're also automatically VAT banning players that are moving their mouse too fast. You can go ahead and try this. In Counter-Strike 2, if you take your mouse, assuming it's a high DPI mouse, set it to the maximum, and then just wildly flail your mouse around at top speeds and make your screen look like a complete seizure, you will automatically be banned. don't know what to think about this one. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Because on one hand, there is no reason to set your mouse to... Do they even actually say what the DPI is that's required for it? If you set your DPI to above 10,000, this works. Someone in chat said they must be a bot for being able to aim with this. But that's the thing, they don't get a shot off. It's just if you move your mouse that fast, must be a bot. It would be one thing if it was near instant mouse movements from a few very specific coordinates with laser precision. Okay. That I'd understand the system for automatically banning. But to just go ahead and take the mouse and just ban it for going like I'm trying to go ahead and wipe something clean in Among Us during a task and just basically vibrating my hand at max speed across it. It's not deserving of a ban. It's stupid. It is making me wonder, how much did Valve actually think when they released Counter-Strike 2? Because this is getting more and more laughable. Maybe they should have taken their time like Star Citizen did. I mean, Star Citizen took 11 years to go ahead and announce that a single feature was complete, and that, in fact, their game is closer to a release than ever before. I'm not gonna lie. I forgot Star Citizen existed. Star Citizen, not to be confused with Starfield, is another space game that was crowdfunded long ago and has raised $616 million and has failed to deliver anything. It hasn't delivered anything. This game has delivered nothing for any of its backers to experience at all whatsoever. But they promised they'd have a release in 2 years. After overshooting that goal by 9 years, there is still no game. It still is not released. But hey. We have the Squadron 42 campaign is complete. Incredible. Simply incredible. But of course, you want to avoid bugs. Despite the fact that I personally, depending on the bug, I actually love bugs. From an entertainer's point of view, some bugs make for incredibly entertaining moments. Such as, in fact, this one bug in Spider-Man 2, in which Spider-Man is replaced with a white cube. And you can go ahead and see bad guys being beaten up by a floating cube that seems to just be absolutely demolishing and swinging using telepathy from what is essentially a giant floating sugar cube. Amazing. You just... What else can you say other than the fact that thank you, Spider-Man 2, for giving us footage of sticky white strings being shot out from a white cube at guys with bazookas. There's a joke in here somewhere and I don't know what it is. And you know what? I think the less I think about it, the better. But clearly there's better things to do. All right. We can we can think about something more wholesome. Like the fact that Tinder now has a feature added where your friends and family can help find a good match for you on Tinder. Yes, my friends, you too can have your parents play matchmaker for you on Tinder. I can't swear on here because of the various platforms we're on that doesn't like explicit podcasts. So I am going to phrase this in the most polite way I can. No. Just no. No. Absolutely not. No. I'd rather not live in an era where relationships are managed by my parents. I do not want to live in an era with arranged marriages, and especially not on Tinder. The app that is primarily made for casual intercourse. The casual intercourse app. No. Absolutely no. 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 In case I didn't make it clear enough. Absolutely not. This is a terrible idea. Just like the last burb. The last burb, the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. This is also a terrible idea. Ladies and gentlemen, did you think I was going to be able to go through an entire week without mentioning Activision Blizzard at all? Oh, you foolish fools. I saved Activision Blizzard for the best story of the week. For you see, Blizzard went ahead and introduced a new giveaway. They're trying to go ahead and raise money for a good cause, or rather help towards a good cause. You see, Blizzard is working with, I want to make sure I actually got the name of the organization correctly. Are they working with the Red Cross? They are just working with local blood centers for this cause. They want players to donate blood to help with a nationwide blood shortage to help save people's lives. It's a good cause, right? And if people are able to donate 666 quarts of blood, they'll be entered in for a raffle to win a human blood infused gaming PC. As a promotional tool for Diablo 4. Yeah, you thought I couldn't top the arranged marriages of Tinder. Oh, not today. I can top it for sure. And it's all thanks to the human blood infused PC. Freaking what? Apparently, the water cooling loop on this PC is in fact powered by human blood. How much human blood? I don't know. I would much rather it just be distilled water with a biocide and red dye. I think that would be much better. But who? Oh my God, no. But even if you went ahead and flushed out whatever coolant is in there. I don't think there's any way this coolant is 100% human blood. Like, I'm pretty sure it's just a portion of human blood mixed with other liquids. But just, no. I don't even care what's in this PC. I think like way too many people would just be freaked out by what is in this PC. What even are the parts in here? We have a Core i9 CPU of unknown age and power, 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, 3 terabytes of storage, and an RTX 4090. With the whole thing being hardline water cooled, or in this case, blood cooled. There's so much to take in from this. It's unreal. And the fact that they have in like a freaking flea market style sticker infused with real human blood on the front just means that it's not a gimmick. It's not like some, okay, it's not like, okay, we went ahead and just put red dye in there, but we're just using the real human blood as a marketing event. They like put it front and center, and what worries me even more, there's someone out there that's enough of a twisted metalhead that they absolutely need the human blood powered PC, and the fact they don't know whose blood is just that much more, makes it that much more desirable to them. And that, quite frankly, makes me so creeped out that I have to end this episode and run away and scream at the top of a mountain somewhere, because my God, that just knowing that this is a real thing, just ugh. But there you go. Don't say I didn't give you something creepy and scary for a Halloween episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check out my other works at youtube.com/EagleFalcon and twitch.tv/EagleFalcon, and check out my other social media, but those two primarily is where you're going to find me the most, or check out the Discord. Take care, and I hope you have a great day. I just gotta know now, how many vampires are entering in to win this PC? Just so they can get a decent meal without being a weirdo. They're like, oh, thank God. I finally got a good meal without having to go and get this. And a free PC was included. Sweet. It's just so bizarre. How much bleach would it take to like sanitize this water loop to make it so that people are comfortable being around this again? Like, just, oh God. Oh. Ugh. I don't know. Would I rather bleach out this PC and clean it, or just save up the money for the components without the blood? The fact I have to think about that says something. I just don't want to think about what it actually is.